Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Chee-Tash. My name is Chris, and today we're going to be going over 1984, Chapter 2, first part of Chapter 2, Part 1, pages 107 to 119. Thank you for joining me. Today, we get some interesting news and some predictions that come to fruition. If you remember last time, end of Chapter 1, we see Winston exploring the world of the proles. And Winston ends up seeing the girl from the fiction department. And if you guys remember, my prediction was that she's not there spying on him. He sees the girl from the he sees the girl from the fiction department, the prediction department. He sees her outside the junk shop when he's leaving the junk shop. He freaks out. He almost wants to kill her because he thinks that she's a spy. She's going to go tell the thought police. He wants to prevent this from happening. Everything's haywire. And now, in this chapter, we find out that he really didn't have to be all that anxious, but you kind of have to be in Oceania, with all this stuff that's going on. You kind of have to be anxious and kind of have to watch your back. So what am I talking about here? Well, let's just jump right into it. The girl from the fiction department, he sees her right away. The big kaleidoscopes, which plots of novels were roughed in, of hiding it. Because, right? And when he goes to help her, she gives him her hand, helps her up. Next point. She slips him something into his hand while she gets up. He conceals it. Remember, there's telescreens around here. There's other people around here. He conceals it until he gets back to his desk. What is in this message? She hands him, it's a piece of paper, folded up piece of paper. What is in this piece of paper? Predict right now. Pause the video if you have to. Think about it. Try to guess what is the message in the paper. And Winston takes a couple of different stops before getting back to his desk. He's in the lavatory. He's trying to unfold it. I'm guessing it's in his pocket. He's fiddling around with it, and he doesn't want anybody else to see what he has. And he ends up going back to his desk. So we have the message. And again, he knows that he can't just open this anywhere because of the telescreens, because of the security state. Even in the water closets, he mentions, I don't exactly know what a water closet is. Different than a lavatory, though. Different than the bathroom. So Winston himself is trying to predict what it is because he's getting kind of super anxious about it. And he contemplates that it's a couple things. It could be a couple things. The one thing, which he actually says is the primary thing, the most likely thing, is a threat to commit suicide by the thought police. So the girl, being an agent of the thought police, hands him a note, says, hey, we got your number. We know about the diary. We know you were in Prolandia. I'm just calling it Prolandia. That's not the official name of it. We know you were at the junk shop. We know you were at the bar conversing with proles. Look, just go out quietly. Nobody knows nothing. Nobody else gets hurt. I mean, that's how I take it. They're basically pressuring him to commit suicide because the thought police don't want to have to do the work of taking him out. Yeah, it could go wrong. It could involve way more resources than they have allocated. So just pressure him into doing it himself. Or, and this is kind of the direction that I was going, was the note contains a message from an underground revolutionary organization, the Brotherhood. And he all of a sudden he starts to get a little bit excited, like, oh my God, the Brotherhood, maybe it actually exists. And the girl is a part of it. Very interesting. So he's back at his desk, and he's basically, do you guys remember his desk? He has like the slits in his desk. He's in charge of rectifying messages, so the old media that he has to rectify gets thrown down in the memory hole, disposed of. So he's going to try to read the message before throwing it down the memory hole to have it never be seen again, because that could be evidence used against him, especially if it's a message of the Brotherhood. That's like a conspiracy to commit revolution in Oceania. That's no bueno. So what does the message say? And look at there in orange letters, believe it or not. Simple. Just a couple words. The message says, I love you. And Winston is so giddy, like an elementary school crush. He is so giddy. He was too stunned even to throw the incriminating thing into the memory hole. Because remember, there's different rules for party members than the proles. Proles can have as much sex as they want. They can marry, they can divorce. But in the party, I'm pretty sure this was like a few episodes ago, the party arranges the marriages. And the party tries to stamp out anything sexual, any sort of affection. Your only love should be the party. So this could get Winston in trouble, that there's somebody that wrote, I love you. You're not supposed to love anybody, seemingly. So he can't resist it. He's reading it once again just to like, wait, am I sure about what I'm reading? He ends up disposing it, and much like the girl was trying to conceal her emotions when she fell down, well, now Winston is trying to conceal his emotions at work, and he's trying to keep his composure at work. He's trying to not let that excitement show. He's not trying to have his heart rate reach like a maximum, which is what, most guys would feel when a girl says they like them. And it kind of makes me think, though, Winston was always so paranoid about the girl in the fiction apartment. Plus, he thought about killing her in the previous chapter, right? When he sees her outside the junk shop, he freaks out, and he wants to catch up to her and kill her because he thinks that she's going to go tell the thought police where he was. Now, all of a sudden, he's in love with her. So it makes me think that he really has had an attraction for her this entire time. I mean, she was even in his dream that one time, too. So maybe he always liked her, except for this weird time when he wanted to kill her. So he's trying to keep his composure until he makes it back home in his bed where, remember this concept of own life, where you have access to your thoughts, basically, and you're able to just kind of chill out. He's trying to hold off until he can get home in his bed so he can actually think about the situation and think about her. That's what he wants to do. I mean, it's funny, though, he mentions even when you're back home in your bed, you have to stay silent. The telescreens can't see you, but they can still hear you, so you have to kind of keep silent about it. God, that would suck. Remember, and I was just mentioning this. He thought about killing her the last episode, the last chapter. So what happens over the next ensuing pages? Like a couple days happen in the next ensuing pages, and he wants to get back in communication with her, but it's so hard because of everything around him. He can't send her a mail because people open up mail that you send people. Obviously, we've mentioned the telescreens. He tries to at work, and we're going to see his attempts at work, but it's hard because he doesn't really know where the fiction department is. All he's focused on is the rectification of messages, his department. So he doesn't even know where to go look for her in the Ministry of Truth. So the one place, the common place in the Ministry of Plenty, maybe in the Ministry of Plenty, in the Ministry of Truth is going to be the canteen. If he's going to talk to her, he needs a place where there's a lot of people, there's a buzz going around, lots of stuff happening all over the place. Attention is going to be hard to hone in on a single conversation. The telescreen's going to have a hard time honing in on just them talking because there's so much else going on. And they have to be sufficiently away from direct telescreen contact. So it's going to be in the canteen. But what ends up happening is the girl actually disappears for 3 days. Now, I write here that this is kind of suspicious. Now, keep in mind, too, he doesn't see the girl for 4 days, it's mentioned at the beginning of chapter 2. All of a sudden, he sees her with a broken arm or whatever, arm in a sling. Why was her arm in a sling? Was it just her own klutziness? Her own accident? Or now, I'm going to go back on my prediction here for a second, because I said she wasn't a spy. What if the arm break or sling, I don't know if it's broken, but the arm injury is punishment for her from the thought police, from other members of the party? Kind of like, hey, why didn't you do what we asked you to do? Or it's her trying to set him up. Now, she does reappear with a band of plaster around her wrist. Okay, so seemingly the narrative has legs. She injured her arm. Maybe it was broken. It was in a sling. Now it's in a cast. Right? So if she's lying about this, she's going to great lengths and she's doing a great job. But I just think it's kind of weird and suspicious. She disappears for 3 days. He didn't see her for 4 days prior to seeing her fall down. I don't know. So like I said, they're going to try and encounter in the lunchroom. He tries once, but there's a guy, Wilshire, calls him out, calls his name. Hey, Winston. He's getting like super close to her, and Wilshire calls him out. And Winston actually mentions it's like really, it's really bad to not respond in a situation like that. If somebody calls your name out like that and you don't respond, it's cause for concern as far as party members go. So he fails that one day. So he tries again next time. He sees her in the canteen, and this time success. So they end up having a conversation in the canteen, and the conversation is crazy. Excuse me, it's not crazy. It's brief, direct, and it's almost like they're not even having a conversation because there's another guy, this guy Ampleforth is ambling around the canteen, and Winston sees him, and he knows that if Ampleforth catches sight of him, he's going to come, he's going to sit down, and their conversation is going to be ruined. So, because Winston sits down next to the girl from the fiction department. We still don't know her name yet. So they're sitting next to each other. He's trying to wrap up this conversation before Ampleforth sees them. So it is super brief. They're like, I don't even think they make eye contact. They're talking while they're eating in a low murmur. Neither of them looks up. Expressionless voices. And basically, they set up another meeting. So what do they do? They plan a meeting. They're talking to each other. What time do you leave work? 18:30. Where can we meet? Victory Square, near the monument. There's going to be a crowd there. No signal. Just come up to me. Don't come up to me until you see a lot of people. They set a time. Okay. So now, fast forward, they're going to be meeting at Victory Square. Very interesting. Winston gets there a little bit early. He sees the girl at the base of the monument. And Victory Square is where, if you guys remember the painting, the picture frame that he sees in the junk shop, in the room of the junk shop that Mr. Sherrington takes him to, at Victory Square, he remembers the cathedral that's there that he saw in the picture frame, and he's reminded. Do you guys remember that little song that Mr. Sherrington says? Oranges and lemons, say the bells of St. Clement's. You owe me 3 farthings, say the bells of St. Martin's. So it's funny. He kind of like remembers the jingle, and he's talking out. He's kind of like going around. He's chiming it in his head, seemingly. So he sees the girl at the base of the monument. Winston is waiting until more people arrive, and they are in luck because people start to gather down in the square because they're gathering because there's going to be some Eurasian prisoners that are being marched through. And from what I can tell, the people are gathering to shout obscenities. It's not like a hanging, or maybe it might be a hanging, but, a public display of Oceania's enemies. So people are going to be there to jeer them on, not cheer, but, boo, and there's hisses and just a lot of hate. Basically like a 2 minutes of hate for the prisoners. So he goes into this crowd of people. He's trying to push his way through the crowd, and it's funny. He finds himself like trying to push between like 2 huge proles with like muscular hips, and he finally wedges his way through, and he finds himself next to the girl. And they are so close enough that he can feel her warmth. He said that he could feel her cheek, the warmth of her cheek. They are shoulder to shoulder together, in line. But again, they're not really looking at each other. They're looking straight ahead at the prisoners. So weird. They're having like the same type of conversation they did in the canteen. And they're still speaking in a soft murmur. And I can probably gauge that it's pretty hard to hear them with all the shouting from the crowd as the prisoners are being, marched through. I'm wondering, like, how the hell can they even hear each other, And basically, they set up another meeting. She gives Winston directions to meet on Sunday at a remote field. So she's giving him directions to go to this field by train. He's got to go to the Paddington station. It's a half-hour railway journey. Left outside the station, he's got to go to a place. Oh, there goes my bookmark. A place with the top bar missing, path across a field, grass-grown lane, track between the bushes, a dead tree with a moss on it. This is all being laid out. He's not writing this down. So crazy detail, military precision, he says. He's got to remember it. And he's going to go meet her there this Sunday. And before leaving, she grabs his hand and squeezes his hand. A fleeting squeeze. Could not have been 10 seconds, and yet it seemed a long time that their hands were clasped together. He had time to learn every detail of her hand, exploring the long fingers, shapely nails. Merely from feeling it, he would have known it by sight. In the same instant, it occurred to him that he did not know what color the girl's eyes were. Again, they're not looking at each other in the canteen. They didn't look at each other. So I'm guessing she wants to meet him out in the field to truly express herself. And could this be the same field that he had a dream about? Remember, he had a dream where she was naked, they were in a field? Crazy. Has it already happened before? Yeah, that's weird that he would have that dream. Again, he says he can't turn and look at her. That would be a folly. They're just holding hands, clasped hands, staring straight into the prisoner's. It says here, the eyes of the aged prisoner gazed mournfully at Winston out of the nests of hair. So I don't know if that's a foreshadowing of things to come. Him holding on to the girl's hand while also staring at the prisoner, almost like, hey, this is what lies in front of you if you follow this path. I don't know, dude. I'm excited to read the next part, though, because that's the end of part 2 right there. Or, excuse me, chapter 1, part 1. Or chapter 2, part 1. How did the girl know that there would be people there? And seemingly, Winston did not know that there would be this huge crowd of people at Victory Square. Again, suspicious. How does the girl know this information? And is there a setup imminent? I know at first I wasn't buying the whole she's a spy, but now I'm kind of like, it kind of feels like a spy operation. So we'll find out what happens in this meeting. If they meet. And that's going to do it, guys. Here are the discussion questions. Take a look at them. Is her arm really broken? Is she for real about the message, or do you think otherwise? Has Winston always shared the same affection for the girl, you think? And describe the precautions taken by Winston and the girl to conceal their encounters. I will post these in the description as well, guys, and then we'll try to make a blog post happen for these two. Thank you so much for listening. You made it this far. Thank you. Big things coming. We had a JavaScript episode come out. I got to be more consistent on those, so look out for that. Look out for more 1984. And guys, thank you very much for listening. I really, really appreciate it. Big things coming. Big things coming. Stick with me. A lot happening, a lot coming down the pipe. That's going to do it. My name is Chris. This has been Chee-Tash. Take care.